I was doing this monologue around the country about student debt in America. And it got legs. I performed it a couple times in New York. Some people took notice. Publications got a hold of it. And you remember this. I was like in a situation where I didn't have a manager. I didn't have an agent. It was just me. And actually, there's another story for a future day where you became my pseudo agent because I had
James Bond.
I had offers to perform. And, when you go to, a university circuit or a theater or wherever, there's a lot of paperwork that goes into that. There's a lot of negotiation and contracts and all this stuff. So I just I put a contract together. I made it up. I had a fee that we charged. But for about 3 years, that was my livelihood. I would tour around the country and I would perform this monologue. And it was great. And what was interesting, though, is that there was a lot of different organizations that pulled me in to use the monologue for what they were trying to talk about. So you had the student Democrats, right? We did a show in Ohio at Miami University where student Democrats brought us in to talk about this issue, and they used my story as a way to bring awareness to student debt. But then you would also have groups like in Maine, it was a financial literacy organization, and they had an annual conference in Augusta, Maine, and they wanted to use my monologue essentially as like a cautionary tale for financial awareness about what extreme debt and student debt in this particular case can do to your life.
It's a serious problem.
They're paying me. So whether I was like, well, they're using me as a cautionary tale. I'm like, how much are you paying me? And they were like,
hey,
I'm like, I'm going.
Yeah. I mean, you're being humble about it, but you were touring, you were getting, like you said, national recognition. The play was fantastic. I loved being able to be a part of that, even like to a small capacity. And a lot of good stories came from that. But the Maine, oh my gosh.
Well, and the thing is, to give a little bit more context, you were the reason why I started asking you to go with me is because what I said before was you were acting in a lot of capacity in a volunteer way at first, and then we were starting to share revenue because it was like I needed help booking things, negotiating contracts. There was a lot of things.
Calling state senators. That's a story for another day.
That's another story. Meeting Van Jones.
Awesome time.
Right, bro. That was another thing. I got contacted by Van Jones. Let's work together. Next thing I know, you and me are on a road trip to Washington, D.C. to
staying in a penthouse suite in Arlington.
Absolutely.
Rolling up into a prestigious university in Georgetown.
And Van
was Georgetown?
It was George Washington University.
George Washington.
And what was amazing was not only was Van amazing, the event was amazing. We had a great time. But what we will dive into at a future, I'm doing a lot of teasers here. There was a guy that made it a little bit hard for us. If you remember, I'm not going to say.
Oh yeah, I remember. I remember the name too. So we'll talk about that off.
God, I want to say it so bad, but I won't. But here's the thing: we had these experiences, but the reason why I was bringing you along on these tours was because you were acting as a pseudo manager, and you were really helping out. We were starting to share revenue, and this was one of those cases where it was like, hey. Let's do this and let's go to Maine. Plus, it was an opportunity to, it's always great to tour and take a trip and go to a different place.
Right.
But we go out there and it was really interesting, man. I remember the hotel that they had us booked in was kind of more like a motel. Do you remember I
do. Look.
What was going through your head when we rolled up
hotels? Let me just start it this way so everybody can kind of understand where I'm coming from. I hate with an exclamation point.
Yep.
Staying at any hotel. I can't get out of my own head. Somebody else slept in here. What if it wasn't cleaned? What if there's a bug? I don't want to know anything about like what may have happened in a room before I got there. So I'm already on guard when I go anywhere. But yeah, it wasn't a 5-star, it wasn't a 4-star, probably wasn't a 3-star.
I think it's like 2.
But it was free.
It was free.
And we needed a place to stay. I think it was maybe only 1 or 2 nights. I can't fully remember.
And it was adjacent to the conference area, remember? Because remember
That's
the conference,
right.
Yeah, the conference hall where I was doing the talk. By the way, what we didn't realize, and I should have read the fine print. I knew the day we were performing. I was doing so many shows. The day I was doing the monologue, I didn't realize how early the show was. Do you remember? It was
morning.
It was 7:30 in the morning. I was doing the breakfast crowd. Anthony, that's when I was like, I almost canceled.
First of all, let me just see how far Maine is from here. As you're continuing to carry us here,
Can I make a guess? Can I make a guess?
We're doing a little improv. Yeah. Anybody here that's watching, please, in your brain.
From Northeast Ohio, where we're located, Northeast Ohio to Maine, when you're going from Northeast Ohio to New Jersey or New York or anywhere else, it's actually not that bad of a drive. Like I think Northeast Ohio is in range of over 65% of the US population within an 8-hour drive. So we actually have a fantastic location, not just for flying trains and automobiles, but for driving as well. But Maine's a different story. You don't even realize. My guess, Anthony, is that it's like 11 hours.
Right. Okay. Let me turn off avoid. I'm going to turn off avoid tolls to start there because the number that I saw was shocking. Okay. So if we avoid tolls right now, it would be 12 hours and 8 minutes. So you are close. 815 miles to Augusta, 14 plus if you avoid tolls.
And we stopped a bunch of times too. We had to eat.
We stopped. Aaron, look, another thing that I've learned in life, my cutoff in a car before I start going somewhat insane is probably 6 or 7 hours.
Me too.
Aaron, we doubled the time. I'm not going to go into this right now, but we may have started hallucinating on the way home. We'll save that for the end. But here's what
let's set this
12
up.
12 hours. 12 hours, folks.
12 hours.
Can't see that.
No, but 12 hours in the car. And you might be, you've put some cards on the table right now talking about your fears. You might be wondering why. First, Anthony and I both don't like hotels. It's just never pleasant. No matter, there's nothing you can do to make that experience work. Ask my fiance, Corey. She'll tell you, I've never slept more than 3 hours at a hotel, meaning like at night. I'm up 4 a.m. Doesn't matter. I can't sleep. You have to get drunk. I have to take sleeping pills to go to bed at a hotel for those reasons. So I was already.
It's a horror film in itself. Following you and I into a hotel stay for a couple of days, people wouldn't know what to expect, but they would be like, "Hey, this has got to be some type of horror film."
It's a horror film.
It's terrifying. Anyway,
but yeah. So no, what I'm saying though is like that's the thing though. Like that's also when I realized I didn't want to tour for the rest of my life. That's what got me into the whole podcasting space. This is like. I don't want to be on the road every month. I want to be in my house with a cup of coffee. I wake up in the morning. I'm starting to read the paper now, Anthony. I'm getting close to 40.
Puzzle? Yeah. 40 going on 80.
Hilarious you just said that. I just did a video about how I almost did a crossword puzzle. Anthony, a number 2 pencil keeps appearing on my table. Don't know. It's converging on me. Pretty soon I'm reading the paper. I'm doing crossword puzzles.
You're doing crossword puzzles. Next thing you know, you're signing up for AARP.
And on top of that, I do a lot of prep work before my stories. And a lot of the prep work is just sitting in my house, drinking a cup of coffee. I have routines that I do.
Right.
And when you're at a hotel before a performance, it's hard to get into those routines. All those reasons we don't like hotels, but you might be asking, why is it that we're driving 14 hours? I hate flying. This is the reason. So like only in a serious situation where I have to do it while I fly, because I cannot stand flying. Anyways, and that's why I drove anywhere that I could. Maine was a bit of a stretch, but I said to myself, I think I can do it. You went along for me on the ride. We started going there 8 hours in. I remember I think we're barely in Massachusetts at this point. We're looking at the GPS. By the way, back in the day, it wasn't sophisticated GPS. I think I had like a TomTom. I can't even
those
zoom.
Damn things.
I can't even zoom in.
Rerouting.
Turn the car. We're in Massachusetts, somewhere at a rest stop. And I'm thinking, we're only halfway there. Jeez. And dude, so I remember. What do we sign up for? And then we pull up into the hotel. And then we go inside the hotel. You remember, we get settled. We're like, not crazy. It's 2-star, but it's free. And then, of course, we should have looked at the itinerary for the performance. I thought it was 7:30 at night. What we realized was, thank God we traveled when we did. Yeah. Because if we would have shown up a day later, decided to stop along the way, we would have missed the show. I'm realizing we're there already. It's like 9, 10 o'clock at night. Anthony, we have a show at 7:30 a.m. the next day. We're doing our thing. And I remember you start itching.
Yeah.
Can you take me to that moment? Do you remember like what was going through your mind? I was concerned.
I believe I woke up, gosh, I don't know if it was the middle of the night. I think did start having like itching symptoms
because you
before we went
said
to
you're
bed,
like,
but I
dude, you're
wasn't
like, I'm really itching really bad. You would say,
yeah. And you know what I chalked it up to?
What's that?
I chalked it up to that when we were driving, we were blasted with the sun and I had black jeans on. And I'm like, you know what? It's sun rash or something. I'm good. We go to bed. We wake up. And at that point, I'm covered in welts and I'm itching. We have to get up to get ready for your performance. I'm in a different, I'm in like 10th gear, as far as like, we're talking anxiety gears 1 through 5.
Right.
I'd shifted out. The transmission had dropped because the only thing that I could think about was bed bugs. That's it. Fucking bed bugs. Excuse my language, everybody watching.
Yep. As soon as you
serious
said it,
I am about it.
I started. As soon as you said it, I went to about 7th or 8th because I started like, man, I am a little bit like uncomfortable and itchy. And in a hotel, they have heavily bleached sheets, so it's already like skin always. So then I'm like, oh God, Anthony, at that point, I was certain we had bed bugs.
It was terrible. I mean, I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but like, if there is something that like highly grosses you out, frustrates you, it could be a fear of anything, right? Like for a lot of people, there's phobias of certain types of bugs, maybe animals, and you get that feeling, the chills that go through your body of disgust, right? Thinking that I could have been eaten overnight by these little creepy crawlers that you can't see was enough to take me to another mindset, man. I was out of my own body.
Yep.
So we had convinced ourselves within a matter of 60 seconds that we had bed bugs in the hotel.
The only thing I could think about was, and I think I mentioned this to you, there was a Dairy Queen across the street. We're standing there and I start thinking like, we might need to go to urgent, like I might need to get tested for diseases. I'm worried at this point that I've contracted something. This is all,
I'm not trying to laugh.
This is all spinning in our head. I got a performance. By the way, it was a sold out conference.
It was I didn't know what
bro.
We were going to walk into, bro, that morning. We're in this mindset, 5:30, 6 a.m. Bed bugs are probably everywhere. They're all over us. I think we took showers. We got our luggage out. Did we stay 1 or 2 nights? I think it was just one night. I think it was one night. And then we're going to get to this too, because after the show, we cannot forget to talk about our pit stop in Portland, which was the highlight of the trip.
Great place.
Lots of awesome things to unpack there. But yeah, we're getting ready. We show up to the venue, probably putting calamine lotion all over our body. We show up pink, right? I'm covered in calamine lotion. You're painting a clown mask on the green room because you have to take stage and you have to perform.
I have to put it in the back of my mind.
It's 7:30 in the morning. I'm like, Aaron, we're in the car ride talking on the way there, and we're probably thinking there's not going to be anybody here. Who the heck is going to show up at 7:30 in the morning on a weekday? No offense to your play, because it's freaking fantastic. And I've seen you do it multiple times and love it every time. But it's like, yeah, but it's 7:30 in the morning on a weekday. It's packed. It's packed. There's bed bugs everywhere. You have to perform. I became your hype man. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
I was the MC.
Yep.
Covered in bed bugs.
You were emceeing these events now. You were emceeing these events. You were starting to introduce me. So not only were you hyping me behind the scenes, for a show like this, 7:30 morning, you had to hype me in. Here's the problem. I'm chugging Benadryl, which is a downer. I'm countering it with coffee. So, bro, I'm gonna roller coaster ride, chugging Benadryl. That's my downer. I hit my upper with some espresso, and I got you being like, let's go. We have to put it in the back of my mind, because this is how we operate. This is how I operate too with my podcast, the show must go on, with our show, Breaking It Down. You show up and you perform no matter what. We'll take care of the bed bugs and the contracted diseases later. I might have to be on medication for the rest of my life, but I'm not letting these people down. And when we came into that room, there was a whole conference room of people. And the other thing I had to even be more animated. because it was a breakfast crowd. So all you hear is people eating bacon and eggs, clanking their silverware. So I have to really, at 7:30 in the morning, you're paying more attention to your omelet than me on the stage.
You paid your dues in this one, Aaron. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with Aaron Califato. Son of a bitch.
Sorry, folks. Sorry, folks, for the distraction. We found out we might have bed bugs. Don't worry.
Sorry, folks. Hey, don't worry. I'm going to kick these bed bugs off. They might get in your scrambled eggs and cheese, but don't worry. Everything's fine. I'm out there. I'm hyping you up. Like, there's probably like crazy music. Did we even? I don't even know if we had hype music. I don't think we did. But you come running out of the tunnel. First of all, who's your wrestler? Who's your WWE guy?
Oh, I love all. So there's Bret Hart.
Who's your guy? Who's the intros? Let's go.
Let's go.
Nobody has the clue. We're in 10th gear, right? Thinking like we're urging cares on speed dial. You come running out of the tunnel like Bret the Hitman Hart.
It's like Ultimate Warrior, bro. He's running Warrior. And he's shaking the ropes, bro.
It's 7:30 in the morning. By the way, a lot of the crowds that we would tour to, we're college kids here, right? They got their like freaking The Office t-shirts on. Yeah. They got their Gatorade and their lunch bags. No, this was middle-aged men and women in business suits eating scrambled eggs at 7:30 in the morning in a small town. You can't even make this up. One of the best performances you ever had.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. And you know what's funny? As the performance ended, I remember it was a blur. Maybe it was the Benadryl and the espresso together. Maybe it was the calamine lotion. Maybe I overdid.
I'll be back. Hold on.
I can't.
I can't. Aaron, you may. We may have been putting calamine lotion on our scrambled eggs. It's possible. Anything's possible. I mean, when you get into that mindset,
and we never got a chance to eat. That's the other thing. Remember, we had to eat afterwards. So we're watching everyone eating, but maybe it was the energy that it took. I mean, I remember running on stage. I remember it was like, I was like, what's up, everybody? I'm Tony Robbins.
Ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Califato. Covered in bed bugs.
So I don't.
We're staying in artist housing. By the way, no shout out to the staff.
No shout out to the staff. Yeah, the staff was absent. No one was cleaning anything. Listen, it could have been all those factors, but I remember after the show, it felt like a blur, and I was like, man, I just felt like I gave it my all. And what was crazy is even for that crowd, like, you know, financial people and like nothing against there, you know, they're just pretty like logical. And it was 7:30 in the morning. No one would be up for a show like that, but it got them fired up. Do you remember being stopped in the hallway by people being like, hey, thanks for the show. So it was a really rewarding experience. You felt it. We felt appreciated. We gave them everything we had. Hopefully we dropped some knowledge and some perspective and some storytelling on them to entertain them and inform them. But as we left, Anthony, we still had a problem to take care of. And that was, what are we going to do about the bedbug situation? But then, correct me if I'm wrong here, before we take a quick side trip to Portland, before we loop back to Ohio, you did figure something out. And first of all, what I had not only wasn't bed bugs, it was just probably like from anxiety from seeing what you were going through. So I realized like I didn't have bed bugs. What happened to you? Why were you in this situation?
Yeah. So I learned quickly, you don't ever want to assume things. Like, take a step back, take a deep breath, lay the facts out in any situation in life and process things, right? Because it's easy to assume. I don't want to give myself, or I don't want to be too hard on myself here, because the facts at the time presented to us made sense that it was bed bugs.
It made
sense.
We
show up, we sleep, I wake up, I have welts. I mean, that's bed bugs 101, man.
Right,
you know,
right.
Here's the reality. You picked me up. I was in town. I want to say I might have been living in Columbus or Cleveland at the time. I don't fully remember. I do know that I was at my parents' house in Medina, and I was helping them. I'm trying to paint a picture for everybody here. Parents have a beautiful home in somewhat country, right? We have this little area. It's like a garden area. There's like a big, tall, I don't even know if it's
Like
maybe
an
a
arch,
trellis or
like
something. An
yeah,
arch. Thank you. An
yeah,
arch.
yeah.
And it had a bunch of greenery that was growing up it. I'm like, hey, I'll help you take this stuff down. We were cleaning it out. I had shorts and a maybe cut off or shorts and a t-shirt on. You probably all see where I'm going with this, right? So I'm like knee deep in what I thought was just like a vine. Like I didn't think it was anything, right? So I'm basically tearing this stuff down. It's getting all over me, not really thinking twice about it. And then you picked me up shortly after that. I believe I did shower. However, there was clearly something on there. Come to find out, after talking to my dad, that there was definitely some type of poison ivy or oak of some capacity that was
There it is.
all over that. That's why it was on my arms, it was on my thighs, on my legs. And I'm like, okay, this makes total sense. It was everywhere that was exposed to it. I had gloves on. I'm glad I didn't touch my face or anything. Cause can you imagine?
No,
They say you can get that stuff like in your throat. I've
you
heard.
you can.
Like that sounds terrifying. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I was very relieved on the way to Portland to realize that, hey, this isn't bed bugs. This still sucks. It itches terribly. The sun's beating down on it. You're in the car. But to know it wasn't bed bugs, man, I think you and I both had a sense of relief, and we did all
Totally.
that worrying for nothing.
For nothing. For
Right.
nothing. I mean, it makes a great story, but I remember we took a side trip to Portland, and that calm sort of set on us, and it allowed us to kind of I realized I didn't have bed bugs either, so I could stop pumping, drinking the Benadryl.
There it is.
And then I could probably put the cancellation on my doctor's appointment to do the disease testing.
Yeah.
So and I realized, and also I know with that kind of stuff, usually it's not contagious from like touch to touch. So either way, it's poison. I was poison, not a big deal. And,
Right.
and you were relieved. I was relieved. And then we could enjoy Portland, man. I remember that city. We had a great time there. It was the first time I'd ever really been. Maybe I'd been there once before, but we went to some of their famous lighthouses. Amazing out in Portland. Beautiful lighthouses. Had some amazing food, lobster rolls, restaurants. It's just a really beautiful city. I really enjoyed my time in Portland. I got brought back there multiple times just by chance to do the monologue a bunch of times. Maine really loved my story. And so, yeah, it was a great time going out to Portland. What was your favorite thing that we did when we went there?
Oh man, Portland. I love the sightseeing. I went through my pictures recently and saw one of the lighthouse pictures.
Yeah, you just sent me that one.
Yeah, I might even drop it in the chat here or the comment section in our YouTube channels. But
beautiful lighthouse.
It is. I think my favorite memory from that part of the trip was the sightseeing, but also sitting on the dock. It was about 12:30 p.m. I remember. We had ordered lobster rolls, clam chowder, and I even ordered a Diet Coke and a bourbon because I'm like, you know what? Shit, we're on vacation.
Celebrate.
So, yeah. And I remember talking to the waitress, and I'm like, this is like the best lobster I've ever had. And she's like, yeah, it came off the boat right over there.
Amazing.
Shout out to the staff.
Shout out to the free